अपवित्र पवित्रो वा सर्वावस्थांगतोऽपि वा यस्मरेत् पुण्डरीकाक्षं सबाह्याभयन्तरः शुचिः। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। Jai Sri Hari. These mantras are from Garud and Bhagavad Puran, respectively, and are accepted in both Vedic and Tantric traditions. It means one may be impure or pure, passing through the different stages or conditions of life. If one remembers the lotus-eyed Lord Vishnu, Pundarikaksha, or Vasudeva Krishna, then instantly become clean with both externally and internally. I bow down to Lord Vasudeva. The first one is commonly recited as the purification mantra during many pujas and initiation ceremonies. The second one is the 12-syllable mantra. It is believed that the continuous recitation of this mantra paves the path for liberation. Namaste. Welcome to Vishwa Yoga. My name is Vishwa. Today I will talk about Pancharatra Vaishnavism and also touch on other schools of Vaishnava Tantra. If you ask a Vaishnava today if he or she practices Tantra, most likely the answer will be no. I practice Bhakti. Since most of the Vaishnava consider that devotion or Bhakti to Lord Vishnu, Krishna or Ram is the main feature of Vaishnava tradition. In their mind, like what many others think, that Tantra practices mean only Vamamarg or left-hand path practices. That is all due to the lack of awareness or lack of knowledge. But they do not know that these devotional traditions embody the feature of Tantra, especially in the area of formal rituals and practices called Archana, which are also mentioned in Bhagavad Puran, one of the most revered texts among all Vaishnava sects. There are voluminous texts in Vaishnava tradition, many sects, subsects, and different interpretations, which is beyond the scope of this video to cover them all. Even on Lord's name have different interpretation in the text. But to keep it simple here, know that there are three major groups. One emphasizes Lakshmi Narayan or Vishnu. The other group emphasizes Radha Krishna or Krishna. And another group on Sita Ram or simply Ram. Either couple forms the state of Ardhanarishwara. So on the highest level, Narayana, Vishnu, Vasudeva, Krishna, Ram are the different names of indwelling deities but are considered as the highest and changeless God or one supreme reality by their devotees. My goal is to keep it simple for easier understanding and share the fundamentals without diving into complex interpretations. Pancharatra school is considered the most authoritative, but I will also talk a little bit about other schools to give you some perspective. So let me begin with its origin. The Pancharatra system was introduced by Lord Narayana. In simple words, Panch means 5 and Ratra means night. So it literally means 5 nights. In Satyuga, Lord Narayana shared this knowledge with his consort Lakshmi to 5 beings: Ananta, Garuda, Vishwaksena, Brahma and Rudra over 5 nights. Ananta is the snake he rests on. Garuda is the bird as his vehicle, and Vishwaksena is the army chief. From Brahma and Rudra, or Lord Shiva, this knowledge was further passed down to many other sages. Please keep in mind, different texts share the same stories in slightly different ways. Most lineage starts from Devata, then passed down to a sage or Siddha, and then to masters. It is also mentioned that sage Narayana, an incarnation of Lord Vishnu, became the founder of Pancharatra school around 300 BC. He intends to become the highest being by performing a sacrifice that lasted 5 nights. Thus, it was known as Pancharatra. As per Mahabharata, sage Narad, son of Brahma, received it directly from Narayana, thus resulting in Naradiya Pancharatra, which is one of the most popular texts in this tradition. Narad Bhakti Sutra is considered the most revered text on Bhakti Yoga. Sage Gautama's Gautamiya Tantra is also well known. In Kali Yuga, the same was shared with 5 sages during 5 nights. Thus again it is called Pancharatra. One of those 5 revered sages was called Sandilya, who is said to be the first one who formally systemized this philosophy in a text called Shandilya Sutra around 100 AD. Although the Pancharatra system originated in North India and its texts were mostly written between 7th to 13th century, but had a strong influence in South India first, because during that time the Islamic invasion came in northern part of India. And then later the same returned back to the north, which I will talk about little later in this video. Purush Sukta of Rig Veda is considered the foundation stone of Vaishnava. This is the core Vaishnavism, though some masters say that the references to Puranas was added much later to establish the Vedic connection. As Naradiya Pancharatra says, everything from Brahman to a blade of grass is Lord Krishna. That connects to Upanishad. All this is a Brahman. This is Advaita philosophy. Sarvam kalamidam Brahma. In the text Ishwara Samhita, Pancharatra text is called Bhagavad Sastra. Now, if you remember my video I did on Vaishnava Tantra some time back, I talked about the 5 major schools of Vaishnava tradition. I will quickly summarize other schools to connect the dot here. The Vaikhansa school is considered the oldest Vaishnava tradition, but it is limited to a very small group of priest community. The Vaikhansa name is based on sage Vaikhansa, or incarnation of Lord Brahma, who received the knowledge directly from Lord Vishnu when he asked 32 questions. This school is also associated with Yajurveda, thus closely linked with Vedic tradition. Its main text is Vaikhansa Sutra. Sage Vaikhansa had 4 main disciples: sage Marichi, Atri, Bhrigu and Kashyapa, who further passed down this knowledge. Even today, popular temples of Lord Vishnu like Sri Tirumala, Opili Appan Koil follow Vaikhansa school. However, many famous temples in South and North India follow Pancharatra, including Srirangam, Kumbhakonam, and Jagannath Puri. The other schools such as Pratisthasara, Vijnana Lalita are the least known ones. Most of these schools either follow or emphasize the orthodox right hand or right hand middle path, even though some of the texts mention and praise the left hand path practices, but they are ignored. Sahaja school is the least talked among Vaishnavas, which came into the 15th century. It uses Kula left hand path practices, plus also employs Buddhist Tantra. Thus mainstream Vaishnava avoid talking about it. It has over 250 texts which is available at Calcutta University, but mostly not translated. Some Vaishnava texts are the dialogue between Shiva and Parvati. To mention a couple of them, such as Radha Tantra, used in Sahaja, emphasizes the importance of Radha, and Maheshwara Tantra deals with Lakshmi's manifestation as Rama or Sita, and Rukmini, wife of Lord Ram and Krishna respectively. On the other hand, in the Pancharatra text Lakshmi Tantra, in which Devi Lakshmi mentions and praises left-hand path practices, but still those are not emphasized or mentioned by orthodox teachers. Sahaja school talks about eroticism and sexuality, which do not fit into mainstream Vaishnavism. Only a tiny population of practitioners today follow this path, but keep their practices secret. Bhakti movement masters actively suppress any left-hand path practices. Later in this video, I will also share a beautiful tantric story of Radha and Krishna from Radha Tantra, which is least known or shared. Here you will see the role of Devi Radha is beyond Krishna's beloved. So stay tuned till the end. Returning to Pancharatra. As mentioned in the Pancharatra Agama, Lord Vasudeva is the Supreme Lord of the universe, and devotion to Him is the only path to liberation. One of the key principles in Pancharatra literature that links this material world with transcendental world is through the notion of formless forms called vyuha. That is a fourfold expansion of the Supreme. The Pancharatra theology is a source of the primary and secondary avatar-based doctrines and how to worship Him to receive His blessings. So all these Pancharatra texts are grouped under 4 categories. First one is called Agama Siddhant, second is Mantra Siddhant, third is Tantra Siddhant, and fourth is Tantra Antra Siddhant. The term Siddhanta is synonymous with Agama or Tantra. So how to differentiate among these categories? When the text focused on 4 formless forms or view, the text falls under category of Agama Siddhanta. When 9 to 12 forms of Vishnu are worshipped, these texts are classified as Mantra Siddhanta. When a single form of Vishnu is worshipped, then those texts are classified as Tantra Siddhanta. And lastly, those texts which mainly focuses on worshipping the non-anthropomorphic forms of Vishnu, such as the Narsingha avatar or man, lion incarnation, etc. These texts are classified as Tantra Antra Siddhanta. The Pancharatra schools are further divided into 7 subsystems based on the lineage. But as per Padma Purana, only 4 main lineages or sampradayas are recognized in this Kali Yuga. Sri, Brahma, Rudra and Kumaras. Each name represents the starting master or guru and presiding deity, and has its acharya or master who passed down their philosophy, and then followed by its popular subsects. These great masters started the bhakti or devotional movement. They originally came from Vedantic backgrounds and tried to bridge the gap and connect the Vedic, Tantric and Puranic tradition while having different views. Each one followed a different Vedanta school, thus they interpreted differently. In each lineage, there are more than one subsect. Some use one primary lineage, others mix or adopt philosophies across lineages. In the 11th century, Ramanujacharya was the influential Vaishnava scholar. He considered both Vedas and Pancharatra Agamas are revealed scriptures, thus tried to bridge between Advaita Vedanta and Pancharatra. So he called this philosophy as qualified non-dualistic philosophy or Vishisht Advaita Vedanta. His school is known as Sri Vaishnava, as Lord Narayana through Devi Lakshmi passed down this knowledge in this lineage. This school is more popular in South India, but using this philosophy as a base, Saint Ramananda promoted another sect in North India called Ramanandi around the 13th century, but the deity is Lord Ram. In the 13th century again, a great master called Madhavacharya, who viewed through dualistic principles or Dvaita Vedanta, followed the Brahma lineage of Pancharatra and worshipped Lord Vishnu as the supreme deity, and he was very influential in South India. This lineage is later also known as Bhagavad Sampradaya, as multiple branches sprouted from it. In the 15th century, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu emphasized total devotion or bhakti as the foundation and considered Krishna as supreme instead of Vishnu, which is now known as the Gaudiya Sampradaya, started in the eastern part of India. From Gaudiya Sampradaya, the internationally popular sect ISKCON movement branched out and appears to mix multiple philosophies and theology. In the Rudra lineage, Lord Shiva is the first master, further passed down to two great masters around the 15th century. One was Vishnu Swami and the other is Ballabha. Ballabha tradition sect is called Pushtimar or Path of Grace. Ballabha followed Suddha Advaita or pure non-dualistic Vedantic school. In this lineage, Radha and Krishna are the main deity and are great for householders. The internationally visible subsect called Swami Narayan is primarily rooted in Ramanuja philosophy, plus also uses Ballabha approach. These sects started in north but are more visible in the western part of India. Another great master, Nimbakara, around the 13th century became the acharya of Kumara's lineage, also called Hansapath. He promoted a Vedantic school called Dvaita Advaita and interpreted Vaishnavism accordingly. Kumaras were four mind-born sons of Brahma. Their younger brother Narada said to record all the Pancharatra knowledge. In this tradition, Krishna is the main deity. Followers are mostly in northern and western part of India. As you can see, these five top masters, Ramanuja, Madhava, Chaitanya, Ballabha and Nimbakara, became the foremost leader of the devotional movement and propagated Vaishnavism. One focused on Lakshmi Narayan, one on Vishnu, and on others on Radha and Krishna or Vasudeva. Many other subsects don't affiliate with any of these lineages today. Today, Pancharatra school has merged into Bhagavata tradition. In general, all the sects that emphasize Lord Krishna are part of the Bhagavata tradition. Though ancient Bhagavata tradition is considered the oldest Vaishnavism, which included worship of all forms of Vishnu. Today, each lineage has its interpretation of Pancharatra and uses selected texts as its main text, but all have some common features. According to the Naradiya Pancharatra, Ratra also means knowledge. Hence, in summary, all Pancharatra texts deals with 5 kinds of knowledge, which was shared by Lord Narayana during those 5 nights. First is about cosmology using tattvas. Second, about liberation or freedom from suffering or mukti. Third was about devotion or bhakti. Fourth is about yoga and meditation. And fifth, about material things, objects of desire, sensuality, also called Vaishik. There are over 215 texts in this school. Many are not even available today. But here are some of the top 10 main texts. A few of them I will be using for Vaishnava Tantra philosophy. Now let me cover some basic concepts that will be the foundation for philosophy. First, I will talk about the different forms of Supreme or Brahman. So as per Vaishnava Tantra, Brahman manifests in 5 different ways. The first type is called Para or Supreme, which is a purely formless state. From this state, it further manifests into formless form called Vyu, which is a kind of impermanent but supreme form. The next type is called Avatar or incarnation of supreme form in different yuga, such as Rama in Treta Yuga and Krishna in Dwapar Yuga. I will further talk about the second and third types later in this video. However, the fourth type is known as omniscient or antaryami, when the Supreme dwells within every being, which cannot be directly seen but can be inferred, such as the soul. And the fifth one is the last one, in which symbolically the form is created. So these symbolic forms called arch, when the Supreme is consecrated in temples as idols and images for worship. The first 3 types are common in most of the Vaishnava tradition, though Vaishnava believes that through any of these types we can interact with the Supreme. Now let's understand the formless form or Vyu, which is the core concept of Pancharatra philosophy, and volumes of text talk about in detail. But I will keep it very short and simple just for easier understanding. In Pancharatra, the Supreme Parabrahman or the highest reality is also known as Paravasudeva. It is the same as Paramashiva for Saivas or Adi Parashakti for Shaktas. So from Paravasudeva, the first Vyu or formless form is known as Vasudeva. Paravasudeva is a totally inert state during dissolution, but a state of Vasudeva is just before the manifestation begins. This form of Vasudeva is endowed with all the 6 gunas or the qualities, also called attributes, which are omniscience, lordship, potency, force, virtue, and splendor, or simply referred to as Gyan, Aishwarya, Shakti, Bal, Virya, and Tejas. The first 3 are the primary and the other 3 are secondary. So Sankarshana is the second view, who possesses Gyan and Bal. Pradyumna is the third, endowed with Aishwarya and Virya. And Aniruddha is the fourth, which endowed with Shakti and Tejas. These first four are the main view. However, some master and texts add the fifth form as a Narayana, who is said to be the essence of all of these six qualities. Now, it appears similar to the Shiva Shakti model. As you can see on this chart, each form represents a specific power of Brahman. They also represent one of the direction, states, and 5 elements. So Vasudeva is known as the highest self, Samkarshan is the individual self, Pradyumna is the mind, Aniruddha represents the ego, and Narayana represents the true knowledge and essence of all. Just to connect the dots, now remember the story of Krishna in Mahabharata. Here Krishna is Vasudeva, his elder brother Balaram is Samkarshana, his son is Pradyumna, and Krishna as a grandson is Aniruddha. So the viewers are the first beings created. Viewers means projection, the projection of the Sarupa or own form from one to many as Bahurupa or manifested variously. Here each form is Vasudeva's creative power. Now you may wonder, where is Lakshmi or his Shakti? In the text Lakshmi Tantra, Devi says she forms the body of Narayana, consisting of the 6 divine or ideal qualities. Knowledge is the first of these forms as her essence, which is also the essence of Brahman. Here other qualities emerge from her first and do not constitute Shakti's essence, but are her attributes. She possesses 5 functions or powers. These are Tirodhana or delusion, Srishti or creation, Sthiti or sustenance, Laya or dissolution, and Anugraha or grace. These are also called her 5 Shaktis, as they sum up the different ways in which she exercises her power of action or Kriya Shakti, but at the will of Vasudeva or Narayana. In short, the Supreme Lord is Lakshmi Narayana together, whereas Narayana or Vasudeva Krishna is the Chit, I or inner consciousness, and Lakshmi or Narayani is the outer projection of Narayana as his power, qualities, and the manifestation of his I-hood. Now let me quickly share the major incarnation of Lord Vishnu, which is popularly known as Dasavatar or 10 incarnations. There are many more avatars, but these are the major ones. In each yuga, Lord Vishnu took different incarnation to preserve this world. In Satya Yuga, he took 4 avatars, namely Matsya avatar as fish, Kurma avatar as a turtle, Varaha avatar as a boar, and Narsingha avatar as half man and half lion. In Treta Yuga, he took 3 main avatars, Vamana avatar as a dwarf, as Parshuram, and as Ram. In Dwapar Yuga, it was his full-blown avatar with 16 colors as Sri Krishna. And in the present era of Kali Yuga, he took avatar as a Buddha and expected to take the next incarnation as a Kalaki avatar towards the end of this era. Now, moving to recommended daily practice. Pancharatra tradition includes 5 kinds of observance. The first one is ablution and morning prayers to God. The second one is collecting worship materials. Third is worshipping the God with offerings. Fourth one is a daily study, self-reflection or swadhyay. And fifth one is doing yoga, including pranayama, bhuti-shuddhi, and meditation. There is a great attention given to purity, non-violence, sattva, vegetarianism, especially while making the offerings and divinizing the whole process of worship. Ideally, a Vaishnava should find a qualified guru or teacher and request for initiation and receive a mantra in a lineage. He can use an image or murti for deity, yantra or mandala to worship. These are tantric modes, also include chakra and kundalini meditation. Even in Bhagavad Puran, when Sri Krishna addressing to his devotee Uddhava explicitly refers to as a mixture of both Vedic and Tantric elements. So Vaishnava devotees is eager to know what pleases my Lord and how to find the perfection in that practice to please Him. To summarize in one line, if I say the simplest practice today in Vaishnava tradition is just remembering Lord's name with devotion. That is enough in this era. Otherwise, the normal worship with elaborate process is complex. Today, as I mentioned before, Pancharatra school does not have a separate formal popular identity, but has merged into these devotional schools known as Bhagavata tradition. Now, it's time for the story. Please note that this story is not from Pancharatra tradition, but the Sahajiya tradition. So if you're not interested, you can skip it. There are many beautiful stories about Radha and Krishna, but this story reveals that Radha was not only Krishna's love or an ordinary gopika, but also a guru. Are you surprised? So here is the story. As per Radha Tantra, one day Lord Vishnu comes to Lord Shiva and seeks a Maha Mantra. He gets it and starts to chant it in Kashi, or today's Varanasi. But it does not work as expected. So he returns to Mount Kailas. Now this time, instead of Lord Shiva, goddess appears as Ma Mahatripura Sundari. She tells Lord Vishnu that the mantra is not enough. He also needs to perform rituals using the Kula or Kola practice, which includes rituals with the body or than and yantra, to see the result. And that's why it is also known as Tantra. Since mantra is not only for contemplating and meditating, but also for rituals. As you know, some of the left-hand Kola practices involve secret rituals with a partner. So Divine Mother explains to him all the rituals he needed to perform and also gives him a beautiful lotus garland. This lotus garland Vishnu takes to his abode called Vaikuntha. Now at around the time of Krishna Leela, the garland falls on the earth at Vrindavan on the banks of Yamuna river and transforms into Radha. Remind you, it is the same Vrindavan where the hair of Ma Sati had fallen when Lord Shiva was carrying her corpse in his grief. So now Radha here in Vrindavan waits for Lord Vishnu to take avatar in form of Krishna. When Krishna arrives and meets Radha, both fall in love. Radha was an older and wiser lady. Later, Devi Radha teaches Lord Krishna all the Kula rituals and becomes his guru in the Tantric rites. You may have read and seen the depiction of Viparit Rati as Ma Kali making love with Shiva in the picture. Here the same is mentioned when Devi Radha is making love to Lord Krishna and teaching him these tantric rituals. One of the great poet Bihari of Bhakti era also mentions the same and describes that Radha's friends were standing outside of the room and trying to guess the sexual position they are making love in. Then Ashtaki, or her friend who knew the Rati Krida, the love-making act, tells that the Krishna and Radha are indulged in the process of a Viparit Rati, a position used in tantric lovemaking. She proves her point by giving the logic that she only hears the sound of kamardhani or kamarband ornament. This is an ornament which women wear around their waist, but not the pile or anklets. As the famous line in Shaktism is, without Shakti, Shiva is Shava. In the same way, one of the devotional lyrics says, Radha ke bina Syam Adha. It means without Radha, Krishna is half. In Vaishnavism, Lord Vishnu or Krishna is referred to as Bhagavan, and some of the revered texts are named like Bhagavad Puran, Bhagavad Katha, Bhagavad Gita. The word Bhagavat has different meanings beside just divine. The word Bhag means portion or cut. So, one meaning is the one who has the power to exactly give you the portion of the fate that you deserve based on your karma, and the one who gives you is called Bhagavan. Another meaning is the way how Lord divides himself in different forms such as vyuha to manifest. But in tantric metaphor there is another meaning. Bhag also means the vulva. Hence it is referring to goddess. Thus Bhagavat means someone who lays claim to the goddess or Shakti. So to create a portion or a bhag from the whole or the purna, you need to cut using the Shakti. You need to have a power. Since Lord has the access to the goddess or power, which gives him qualities like fame, wealth, knowledge, beauty, and attractiveness. And these qualities and power make him Bhagavan. As mentioned before, orthodox thinkers and masters actively suppress and sideline left-hand tantric stories and practices due to their conditioning and another important philosophical and social belief emphasizing the sattva and purity which Lord Vishnu represents. But the famous Krishna's Maharas with all gopikas in divine love dance is very unique. Even Lord Shiva came to witness it. And without Radharani, it was not possible. If Krishna is the pure consciousness and a primordial sound of the universe, then Radharani is the power or Shakti from which creation is born. Radha is the longing and desire that brings all seeds to sprout and flourish. Remind you, there is a difference between the mainstream and tantric bhakti. If not aware, I will share more about during the philosophy talk. So on high level, This was the summary of Pancharatra school of Vaishnava Tantra. Now, having this foundation, in the next video I will talk about the Vaishnava Tantra philosophy, explaining its core principle or tattvas, and how it is slightly different from the Shaiva and Shakta model, but yet have the same foundation. Thank you for watching and have a wonderful day. Namaste. Thank you so much for listening. If you like the information, please subscribe, like, and share so that everyone else can also enjoy this.